System test. Okay. Oral warning, okay.
For information, Golf 13000. Wind 32024. Visibility 6. Cloud condition.
Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink.
Hi Kim, good afternoon. How are you? Hope you're all keeping well. Anybody else looking in there? Just noticed a few messages there saying that the stream is frozen. So please let us know if it's any better. I have been chatting to myself for the last half an hour where my mic has been switched off. So I did not realize that at the moment. However, the flight's still going good. At this moment in time, I'm just going to step back out for 5 more minutes and I'll be back and chat to you for a descent into Dublin. Back shortly. And I am back. Well, I just discovered that I was having a fantastic first 45 minutes on the stream of my own. Actually, speaking to myself, I forgot to unmute my mic. Silly me. So basically what I was doing for the first half of the stream is showing autopilot how it worked and how we're navigating. So for the benefit of those who's joining us, please feel free to hit that subscribe and like button, and don't forget the notification bell for any time that we go live on the air. You'll be notified as to when you can actually board with us and watch the stream. At night time we fly also on Fly UK's channel, where we do dual pilot ops, and myself and Dan flies the Airbus to different parts of the world, and we have many people following us in the evening. So don't forget to check out that channel as well, and also give that like and subscribe also. So what I was saying to myself near the start of the stream was we were going to be climbing to 16,000 feet, which we are, as you can see. And today we are tracking VORs. Now what VORs are radio navigation beacons that's actually on the ground. We don't use GPS. Well, today I'm not using GPS, even though this aircraft is well capable of it. I'm not using the GPS today, it's just using VORs. So just to go back quickly over that, if I look at the map today, here's where we are. Just down here, coming out over the Irish Sea. And we were initially tuned into a beacon called Strumble, and I had a frequency 113.1. We are now currently tracking a beacon in Dublin, and it's called DAP, Collinstown DAP. It's a frequency 112.2, and we have that tuned in. I'll show you now. Navigation frequency 111.2. It's now active on my radio navigation. So basically what this instrument is here, and this is what we're using to navigate, is a VOR. And VOR, the best way to describe, it feels like I'm talking to myself again, but the best way to describe this is think of a bicycle wheel. And on a bicycle wheel you have spokes that come out of the bicycle wheel. With this instrument, there's 360 degrees that's coming out of that radio navigation beacon. We can select any single one of those spokes and fly inbound to the radio beacon. So currently we are on spoke 330, so let's have a look at that. And that's on the magenta 330, and we're flying inbound to that beacon, and the distance to it is depicted down here of 69 nautical miles. So we have 69 nautical miles to go to Dublin. And basically what I was describing earlier was that these are beacons that superseded older type of beacons called NDBs, and they were around in the 30s and the 40s, where aircraft could tune into these beacons and a needle will just point to where the beacon is. Then you could go to your map, see where the beacon is on the map, and then work back how far you are away from it based on the course and the heading and so on. I won't go into too much detail on that. I won't go into too much detail on that because it can be a little bit complex, and it's for a different stream all on its own. However, these VORs superseded them. We can actually select the course, select the spoke, and fly in along that radial to the navigation beacon. Now, these days we've obviously upgraded to GPS. This aircraft is capable of flying a GPS route as well, but I decided for the stream we'll do it the old-fashioned way and just fly navigate the radio waves. If we had no radio beacons on the ground, we can go back to the compass. It's a very old way of doing it, but it's tried and tested, and it's a legal entity for every single aircraft in the world to have a compass in it. So Kim says next live, whether it be on Fly UK's or my one, do you have your mic on? Kim, we will very much appreciate it, because if you actually passed comment on that earlier on, I would have saved myself 45 minutes of speaking to myself all on my own. So just having a look at the bits and pieces, I do this very quickly again. On the left hand side, we have all these buttons here, because a lot of people say, what are all these buttons for? Everything on the left hand side of the screen here is volume indicators for various different things. We have 2 radio communications. We can identify beacons by their Morse code and so on. Down around here is all engine switches for battery and electrical for batteries, generators on the left, generators on the right. And if you're watching the stream earlier on, you can actually see me switching off one of the generators and going up and checking to see, do we actually have electricity coming out of that generator. So if you wind back the stream, you'll be able to see that. And these are the starter switches down here, and we've also got lights over here, ice protection to make sure that we don't build up any ice. And down here we've also got what we call, we can change the angle of the prop by using these. These are the fuel, and obviously these are the throttles here. The center screen is basically used for navigation, as we have the map up there. However, we can put anything that we want into that. And on the co-pilot's far side, we have another screen over there, which he has the exact same information for as what I do here. Up on the top panel, there's some overhead lights and displays, which obviously you can use those at night time, and some indication from the electrical health of the aircraft, which is here. So the fact that I was talking to myself for 45 minutes and I did go into it all, I won't go into it now because we need to start thinking about our approach into Dublin. We're out over the Irish Sea at the moment, and we've, according to the instrument, we have 57 nautical miles to run. So we'll be starting to think about the approach into Dublin. And Kim will be more worried if you're replying to yourself. Well, it's been known on an occasion when the wife doesn't talk to me, I'll have to speak to myself. Niall says, I seem to spend half my working day telling people that they're on mute during team calls. I love it, man. So yeah, if anybody sees me on the stream again, please point me to the microphone if you don't hear me talking, because as my wife would say, it's very unusual for me not to be talking on at all. So yeah, let's have a little quick look outside the aircraft and what I was showing earlier on. It is a little bit more noisier out here. I was pointing out there's 2 little pieces of metal near the nose cone here, and they're pointing straight into the air. They pick up the pressure of the air that's being pushed down those tubes, and that then, with a little bit of magic, translates into how fast we are going. So that's basically called the pitot, and that gives us our airspeed indications. So anything that you may have, or about 5-10 minutes before we have to start thinking about descent on the approach, if you have any questions even on the aircraft navigation, pop it into the comments, and we'll certainly be able to try and get to your question before. And if I don't have an answer, we'll certainly dig it out for you. We'll look. I can even look it up and reply then at a later date. So feel free to ask anything that you've ever been curious about flying. So let's have a little look at the health of everything here at the moment. So just under 52 nautical miles to go to Dublin, and today we will be doing an ILS approach. So it's going to be an instrument landing system approach, where we'll tune in a radio beacon that's coming to being emanated out from the runway. And there's actually 2 beacons. There's one that is, if you can think of the way the runway lies, and it'll be an extension of the centre line of that runway. So we'll be tuning into that beacon and locking onto that. We'll also be tuning into a vertical beacon, which will be able to tell us we're descending at the correct rate. So we don't have to be able to see the runway. However, there is legal amount of limits that we can go to. In other words, what we call a decision height. So if I pull up the chart, in real world aviation, we would have a set of charts based on each airport. So this is the map of what we're using, but the charts of the particular airport. And here is the set of Dublin charts on the left hand side. Our approach today will be just doing radar vectors in, and we're going to be on runway 28 left. So I'm going to call up the chart for 28 left. So this would be something that you would have, it would be the legal plate of it. And it's telling me here we have a vertical, as if we're looking down on the runway, and here's the runway right here, just a small little part, and here's the extended centre of the beacon that we were speaking about earlier on. As if we're looking at the side of it, here is the runway again, and here is the vertical profile coming out. So it says when I tune in the beacon, I'll be joining at 3,000 feet. Actually, I'll be joining at 2,500 feet today. And when we get to 7.1 nautical miles, we'll descend on this radio signal all the way down to the runway. The lowest I can go down is 402 feet. When I reach 402 feet, I must be able to see the runway. If I can't see the runway, I must go around and then assess whether I want to make another approach to that runway or maybe take into account of a diversion. So I'm going to tune the radio beacon in the background. It's 111.35. 111.35. So let's just put that in as a standby for radio navigation. 111.35. So I'm going to enter that. Now that's on standby. So that's when I want to switch over, I'll be able to bring it up there. And but another way of looking at this is 111.35. I'm going to actually put it in on radio navigation too. Now can't pick it up yet. It's not a powerful transmitter. However, when it does start picking it up, we have information coming up here on nav 2. So we're basically all set up on that. And remember, 402 feet is the lowest I can come down to the runway without seeing it, and then I must go around. When I see the runway, I can then continue on and land. So Sunset Robex says, blame those long haul flights, you're tired and need to rest. That can be your excuse. Okay, Sunset, we'll get to that later on. Kim, those long haul flights, you need to rest. Yeah, that's very true. Don't know why they've come up as Sunset Roblox. Okay, right, so I'm sure that's Kim, is it? Kim said same thing, isn't it? Yeah, very good. Okay, again, don't forget, hit that subscribe and like button and when you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified for boarding when we go live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch and Twitter. So streaming on all 4 platforms. And don't forget to also check out Fly UK, where we do dual pilot ops on the Airbus 320 for different parts of the world. I believe the last one we did was from San Francisco down to Vegas, and there was some spectacular scenery on the way down there, including one or two little failures that we had. I did one there not so long ago from Brisbane to Sydney it was, and after a nice little sightseeing tour around the harbour area for everybody on the stream, on our final approach we lost an engine, and that brought up a whole new kettle of fish. So we dealt with it, and Dan was actually pilot flying that day and did a spectacular job on bringing it in and landing. So don't forget again to join us on Fly UK for nighttime streams with 2 of us, and we'll be doing dual pilot ops. So let's have a little quick look at our fuel. We're plenty of sufficient fuel for our approach, and we are now looking at 35 nautical miles. Time to start descending towards 5,000 feet. So today, how we're going to do that, there's many ways of descending. I'm going to actually, first of all, wind the autopilot down to altitude of 5,000. Oh, I clicked something there. Down to an altitude of 5,000 feet. You can see it there, coming down. So altitude of 5,000 feet is selected here. We are 16,000 feet. I want to descend this aircraft at 230 knots. So the way the King Air, we can do in the King Air, we can press flight level change. So we've got flight level change. It currently took our current speed of 213. Now we're going to increase the speed to 230 knots. And the aircraft is effectively going to dip its nose to try and accelerate to that, because we're not using any extra power. So it's going to accelerate to 230 knots, and by doing that, we can actually see our altitude coming down. If I reduce the power a little bit, it will actually give us a better descent rate. So I'm going to bring back the power ever so slightly. And now watch our descent rate start to descend quickly. There we go. And let's bring it right down. So out over the Irish Sea, we're going to be going down to, actually let's bring it down to 3,000 feet. And we're descending nice and fast now. Also, we put our props back up to full fine and full fuel on. We don't need to lean it out. So, we're descending nicely. Dan played a blinded you tonight. He did, Niall. He did. That was Dan's first time flying single engine, and I have to tip my hat to him. That requires a lot of training in real life, and yet he coped extremely well with it. Bear in mind, I believe he caused the problem, so I think it was only right enough that he went and flew it all the way to the end. But I do tip my hat to him because it was an excellent effort for his first time. But I have one or two little surprises in the background. He's probably watching the stream now at the moment, but I do have one or two little surprises that I can throw back at him another night for doing that to me. But it was great fun, in fairness to him. And again, we just dealt with the procedure. We just followed the ECAM, and that's what you really have to do in real life. You do have a set of procedures, and once you adhere to them, you will actually notice that the aircraft works quite well on one engine. What I can tell you is, just for a little bit of trivia, an Airbus that's full to the maximum weight for takeoff, so an Airbus 320, let's say 73.5 tons, and it's heavy with fuel, it's heavy with people, and you're taking off, if you lose one engine, you still don't need 100% power, because the engines are so powerful, you'll probably use somewhere in the region of only 95% on one engine. So that gives you an idea what those engines are capable of on jets. And 95% with full aircraft with fuel and passengers is very, very heavy, and it can easily climb away. And they can fly around at nearly 20,000 feet just on one engine. You won't be able to go all the way up to 36,000 feet, but you'd actually have to come down to 20,000 feet and sort out, basically, nice and slowly, sort out exactly what you have to do, where you're going to divert and so forth. So I can actually see Dublin in the distance there, and we're going a little bit inland, and I don't want to do that. So instead of the navigation, I don't need my radio navigations anymore, because I actually know where I am. I want to bring the heading out up to north a little bit, so what I'm going to do is select with the autopilot here heading, and move the heading around. Watch this little blue bug here. Move it around to north. There we go. The aircraft hasn't turned, and we're actually just about to level off at 3,000 feet. We can see the speed coming back, so I'm going to bring the power back up again, and we'll keep an eye on the speed now in a moment. So I'm now pre-selected north. I'm still tracking the beacon. However, if I press heading up on the autopilot, we'll see the aircraft now turning towards north. There we go. I actually want to go around this little piece of land that's just out here in front of me, and then we'll make a left-hand turn around that, and I do know that's where the runway 28 in Dublin is. So I do want to actually demonstrate also the ILS. So those of you who have joined us on the streams on Dan's channel, you'll actually see that the ILS that we use, we tune it in, and you may not understand exactly where we're getting it from. So let me come down here and set it up. So I do have it pre-tuned in there. I'm going to transfer it in. Now, if you look at the green crossbar, it's actually showing me this is the direction of the runway. The runway lies from east to west nearly, and the green bar says we are not on the center line of the runway. So when that green bar comes in and approaches the center and lines up with the top and the bottom of it, we'll turn towards that arrow and keep that going straight in, and that's how we know we're in line with the runway. But we do have one extra little piece that we can use, is we can automatically lock on to that beacon, which is quite handy, I tell you. I did say we're going to come down to 2,500 feet and join it. So altitude, I'm going to wind down 2,000 to 2,500 feet. So watch. Oh, that's the heading. It's just the heading. So altitude 2,500 feet. I'm going to press flight level change. I'm going to wind up the speed a little bit. So we'll descend. The aircraft will pitch down to get 240 knots. It wants to accelerate. And the only way you can do that without me giving it any more power is to put the nose down a little bit. So looking at the instrument, we're not lined up, not yet, but the runway is only just under 11 nautical miles away. So we have to start thinking about configuring for landing. So now it's time to start slowing down the aircraft. See the speed coming back now nicely. As we approach this land, you'll actually see this coming in. I'm going to arm the approach. So it's actually locked onto the localizer at the moment. It's automatically turning towards the runway that we need. Again, waiting for that green bar to come in. Bringing out 2 stages of flaps. So when that green bar comes in, we'll be on the center of the runway. I want you to look at this green dot that's up here. When that comes down to the center, that green dot tells us that we are now on the correct angle, and we've got to keep it in the center. So that means we're on the correct descent angle to join that runway. So I can see the runway, but just for the purpose of showing you the ILS instrument landing approach, I don't want to actually just go to the outside view. It is over there, just seen above the dashboard there, and just before the upper strut. The runway is actually there. But let's have a look at the ILS in action. The green dot is coming down, so what I am going to do, I'm going to engage VS mode. I'm just going to start descending a little bit. Engage the VS mode and start descending a little bit, just to keep the green dot right in the center there, right in the center. And let's go full stages of flaps. So pretend we cannot see that runway out there. I'm keeping the green dot just where it needs to be. I want the speed to stabilize at around 130 knots, somewhere around 130 knots. I'm keeping the green dot in the center. I'm waiting for the green bar to come across into the center to line up with the top and the bottom, and then I'll know we are bang on center, both vertically and both horizontally. Now we can see the aircraft is turning towards the runway. I am not doing that. That is the autopilot getting ready to lock onto that center line, and we're keeping also the green dot relatively close to the center, so we're coming down at the right angle. Now if we look closely, we can see the green bar starting to come in and line up with the top and the bottom, and we'll see that aircraft turning more and more towards that. As it gets centered, it will hold it, and now it's holding the green dot relatively close to the center. The speed is 134 knots. We can come down to 402 feet legally. So I don't want to show you outside just yet. Let's keep looking as if we were flying instruments. We are now lined up with the center. The aircraft has got lined up. We can actually fly this manually should we wish. However, it's always nice to have the autopilot to do a little bit of this for you. So the green bar is lined up on the center. We're going towards the runway, and the green dot is coming down. So we'll keep going down. I need to adjust my speed back to 130 knots. My altitude is 1,320 feet. I can go down to 402 feet before I need to look out. So everything is looking good. My approach is looking stable. Again, I don't want to look out. I don't want to spoil the fun. So we've still got the center line, which we're holding the center line of the runway. And the green dot is trending away a little bit. It's not too bad though. We can accept a little bit of a deviation from that. Also, we can accept a little bit of a deviation left and right off that green bar. We're holding 130 knots, so we keep it nice and steady. Don't change anything. The altitude is coming down nicely. We're still not looked out at this moment in time. We don't know where the runway is ahead of us. But we do know we can look out when this number reaches, we call it 410. So we're holding our speed, we're still on our center line, and the green dot is towards the center. So that's all looking good. Still keep going down to our 410. Holding the center line, our speed looks good. Green dot is still relatively in the middle, and we're approaching near 400 feet. So let's have a little look out now. And there's the runway. So disconnect the autopilot. Autopilot is disconnected. And as we approach, just ease off on the thrusts. And flare. A little bit too much. And flare. And into reverse. Tapping the brake. And there we go, down to 60. And get the speed right down. There we go. Welcome to Dublin. So that's how we fly an instrument landing approach into Dublin. So any of those who have joined us on the dual streams with Dan, it's the exact same. Every time we make an approach onto a runway, we fly an instrument landing approach. There are other approaches that's available that we can do, from a VOR approach, an NDB approach, a GPS approach. So there's lots of different ways that we can get into different airfields. You will actually see on smaller airfields, instrument landing systems are very, very expensive to run, so they would probably go for a cheaper option with a VOR approach. They may have a VOR from many years ago, so they can get a approach made up from that. And there's different ways and different methods to fly each one of these, which is actually quite good. From an airline perspective, you need to obviously be able to fly each one of them and know how to fly each one of them should one not be available to you. 95% of the time, a ILS approach is the one that we use. And just to tag on as well, talking about the ILS approach, that is the one that we would use in a jet airliner with an automatic landing. So a lot of jets are capable of doing an auto land for when it's foggy out there, and you can see how accurate there we were able to get down to the ground in a King Air, which technically their instruments probably wouldn't be as accurate as what it would be in a jet. In a jet they'd have much more expensive and finely tuned equipment. However, it still operates on the same principle, and a jet can be certified to actually do an automatic landing. And to do that, the airport also has to be certified to do an automatic landing, that they've got a good, what they call a good clean signal. They've got procedures in place that when it's bad visibility out there, bear in mind, if you can't see the runway, air traffic control can't see you either. So they have to have procedures that they can see you on the radar. They will only allow maybe 1-2 aircraft. Is there a parking spot here? 1 or 2 aircraft operate on the ramp at any moment in time, and all of those must be defined clearly, documented, handed out to airlines, air traffic control trained on it, and so on. So the ILS is the one that we use 95% of the time, and I do believe in time to come they're going to be able to do a precision approach of that nature, and I believe it's being trialed at the moment, and the equipment is out there to actually do it. It's being trialed at the moment where you can actually do a precision approach, cannot see the runway, and also land on GPS. That's available on ILS, but not in GPS at the moment. There is procedures that we can actually do a full landing on air and a runway that's certified for it, and we do not even need to be able to see the runway. It will be an auto land, and that's where you're more dangerous on the ground when you can't see how to taxi around the airport what you are when you're in the air. So we are welcome to Dublin. The parking brake is set, and what we'll do is now switch off the alternators for engine 1, engine 2. That's all good. Bringing the props down to feather and cut off the fuel. And fuel is off. So, you should see the props stopping now shortly. You would think. There we go. That's them on. So, safety to Dublin in the King Air. And that's basically how we do that. All these are just secondary warnings because the engine is stopped. Switching off all the lights on the outside. Filling out the tech log, all the paperwork. Making sure everything's all the way it should be. Switching off the pitot heaters. Yeah, all those alarms coming on. And the master switch for the avionics is there. Last but not least, continuing on and shutting down the aircraft. And this one here. That's it. We are here. There we go. We're safely in Dublin. It's actually starting to look a little bit gloomy in Dublin, and the forecast is for a little bit of rain later on. However, any of those who have joined us throughout the stream, do hit that subscribe, hit the notification bell. You know when we're actually going to be boarding. We also do dual pilot op streams over on Fly UK. Don't forget to check those out. And you can join me and Dan in the Airbus 320, where we take it to different places around the world and we do those approaches. Normally we've never done them before, so come and join the fun and watch us struggling sometimes with those. Want to say thank you very much for those who have joined us. Niall, Kim, there has only been a few here. Is the mic still on? Yeah, I hope so. Please, Kim, don't tell me I've been talking to myself again. But yeah, do join us on the other stream of Fly UK, and we're building this channel also where in the morning times you'll probably, and midday you'll see me flying the King Air to various places and other aircraft also as well. Like to do a lot of the old style navigation and not just using GPS, so please do come and join us and ask any questions that you wish. Leave comments in the below the videos there, and I certainly will get back to any questions that you may have about airline flying, about a private pilot's license, or what you need to do. But for now, I'll say thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.